Have you ever felt the crushing weight of rejection? It's a silent sting that lingers long after the moment has passed. You muster up the courage, open your heart, or invest your time, only to be met with a cold, resounding no. You replay the moment over and over in your mind, questioning yourself. Was I not good enough? Did I say the wrong thing? What do they have that I don't? Rejection isn't just an answer, it's a wound. It eats away at your confidence, makes you second-guess your worth, and leaves you trapped in a maze of self-doubt. And the pain? It doesn't come just from the word itself, but from what it makes you feel. Invisible, inadequate, unwanted. But here's the truth you may not want to hear yet desperately need. Rejection is inevitable. At some point, we all face it. In love, at work, with friends, rejection is part of life. The difference isn't whether or not you'll be rejected. It's how you choose to respond. What if I told you that rejection could be your greatest teacher? That within every no lies a lesson, a hidden opportunity, and a chance to grow stronger. Rejection doesn't have to define you, it can refine you. In this exploration, we're diving into 8 powerful lessons rooted in Stoic philosophy that will show you how to turn rejection into your secret weapon. These lessons aren't just about enduring rejection, they're about using it to your advantage, rising above the pain, and becoming the version of yourself who's impossible to ignore. Before we begin, here's your mission. Hit that like button. Why? Because this small action tells the universe and YouTube that you're ready to take control of your life. So, stay with me. Let's uncover how to transform rejection into strength, resilience, and undeniable power. Because the next time someone says no, you'll be ready to say thank you. Let's begin. Number 1, don't react. Respond with strategy. Rejection often feels like an ambush. It catches you off guard, igniting a storm of emotions, anger, disappointment, even shame. Your first instinct? To react, to defend, to plead, or to lash out. But here's the thing. Reacting emotionally gives away your power. It shifts the control from your hands into theirs, making you appear vulnerable and unsettled. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius taught, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. In other words, rejection isn't the problem, it's your reaction to it. Reacting impulsively reinforces the very rejection you fear, while a calculated response turns the tide in your favor. Imagine this. You're in a meeting, pitching an idea you've spent weeks refining. Your boss cuts you off mid-sentence with, "That won't work." The room falls silent. All eyes are on you. The temptation to defend yourself or prove them wrong is overwhelming. But instead of reacting, you pause. You take a deep breath, assess the situation, and calmly say, "I understand your concern. Could you help me understand which part doesn't resonate? Maybe there's a way to refine the idea together." That pause changes everything. It signals confidence, composure, and emotional intelligence. You've turned rejection into an opportunity to collaborate rather than a confrontation. The same principle applies to personal relationships. If someone pulls away or dismisses your feelings, reacting with anger or desperation only validates their decision. But responding with grace, "I respect your feelings, and I'll focus on what's best for me too," shifts the dynamic. It shows that their rejection doesn't define you, your response does. The key here is to pause. Let the initial wave of emotion pass before you speak or act. Rejection, when faced with calm and strategy, becomes less about loss and more about growth. It's not about ignoring how you feel, it's about mastering it. When you respond instead of reacting, you reclaim the narrative. You show that while rejection may sting, it cannot destabilize you. And that, my friend, is a power that commands respect. Number 2, harness the power of silence. Speak volumes without words. Rejection often tempts us to fill the void with noise, pleading, explaining, or overcompensating to regain lost ground. But here's a truth that Stoics understood profoundly. Silence is not just the absence of words, it's a declaration of strength. Marcus Aurelius said, "Silence is a refuge for the wise, not the timid." When faced with rejection, silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. Consider this. When someone rejects you, their expectation is often a reaction. They anticipate defensiveness, desperation, or even anger. But when you respond with silence, you disrupt the script. Your composure speaks louder than any words could. It says, "Your decision doesn't diminish me. My worth isn't tied to your approval." Let's apply this to a real-life scenario. Imagine confessing your feelings to someone, only to be met with, "I'm sorry, I don't feel the same way." The natural impulse might be to question, to plead, to try to change their mind. But instead you pause. You smile gently and say nothing more. That silence becomes your shield, protecting your dignity and signaling your independence. In the professional world, the same principle holds. If your idea or proposal is dismissed, silence can command more respect than a flurry of justifications. By stepping back and allowing your work to speak for itself, you convey confidence and self-assurance. The absence of desperation forces others to question their judgment, often creating a ripple of intrigue and regret. Silence isn't passive, it's intentional. It's the space where reflection and clarity thrive. By choosing not to react, you shift the power dynamic. You demonstrate that rejection hasn't shaken your foundation. It's merely a passing moment in your journey. And here's the paradox. Silence, though seemingly empty, often draws people back to you. It creates a sense of mystery and respect, making them wonder why their rejection didn't rattle them. So when rejection strikes, don't rush to fill the silence. Embrace it. Let it amplify your resilience and showcase your unwavering self-worth. In a world full of noise, your silence will stand out and ultimately speak. Number 3. Rebuild your confidence. Become your source of validation. Rejection in relationships hits like a wrecking ball. It shakes your foundation, leaving you questioning your worth. For many men, it feels like a personal indictment. I'm not good enough. But here's the truth. Their rejection doesn't define you. What defines you is how you rise after the fall. Stoicism teaches us that true strength comes from within, not from the approval of others. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you allow rejection to paint your thoughts with inadequacy, you'll carry that burden. But if you use it as fuel for growth, you'll emerge stronger, brighter, and unstoppable. How do you rebuild confidence? Start by focusing on what you can control. Yourself. Hit the gym, not just for physical strength, but to feel the power of discipline shaping your body and mind. Learn a new skill, not to prove something to anyone else, but to rediscover your capability. Dedicate yourself to your work, your hobbies, or a project you've been putting off. These are the bricks that rebuild the fortress of your self-esteem. Rejection has a way of narrowing your perspective, making you feel like the world revolves around what you've lost. But when you channel that energy into self-improvement, you shift the narrative. You go from being someone who is rejected to someone who's thriving, independent, capable, and confident. And here's the irony. As you focus on yourself, you become the version of yourself that's impossible to overlook. People are drawn to confidence, to the quiet strength of someone who knows their worth. Rebuilding your confidence doesn't just restore what was shaken, it transforms you into someone who's not easily shaken at all. So, if rejection has knocked you down, don't stay there. Stand up, brush yourself off, and rebuild. Not for them, not to win them back, but for yourself. Because your worth was never about their approval, it's about your commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. Number 4. Stop overanalyzing rejection. It's not always about you. Rejection has a peculiar way of lodging itself in the mind, pulling you into an endless loop of what-ifs and whys. For many men, it feels natural to dissect every word, every gesture, every moment leading up to the rejection. Did I say something wrong? Was I not attractive enough? Should I have acted differently? This spiral isn't just exhausting, it's destructive. Consider Mark, a 30-year-old professional who recently asked a colleague he admired out for coffee. Her response was polite but firm. "I don't think it's a good idea." Though she didn't elaborate, Mark couldn't stop replaying the moment in his mind. He began questioning his approach, his looks, and even his value as a person. For days, he avoided socializing, convinced he'd embarrassed himself beyond repair. But here's the Stoic truth. Rejection is rarely about you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." The decision to reject often says more about the other person, their preferences, priorities, or circumstances, than it does about you. When you overanalyze, you're assigning yourself responsibility for factors outside your control. Instead of spiraling, take a step back. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? Maybe the timing was wrong. Maybe their interests simply didn't align with yours. Or maybe, just maybe, it wasn't about you at all. By shifting your perspective, you free yourself from the burden of unwarranted self-blame. For Mark, the turning point came when he realized he couldn't control her feelings, but could control how he moved forward. Instead of fixating on the rejection, he refocused on his hobbies and professional goals. The result? He gained clarity and confidence, understanding that one rejection didn't define his worth. Rejection is a part of life, not a reflection of your value. Don't let it trap you in a maze of overthinking. Accept it for what it is, a choice that wasn't yours to make, and move forward with grace and confidence. Because the most powerful response to rejection isn't analysis, it's action. Number 5, create mystery. Disappear and redefine yourself. Rejection, especially in love, often comes with the urge to chase. You want answers, closure, and maybe even a second chance. But the more you pursue, the more distant they become. Here's the paradox. The best way to regain control after rejection is not to explain, plead, or convince. It's to create mystery. Take David, for example. He had been seeing someone he deeply cared about for months. Things seemed to be going well until one evening she told him, "I think we're better off as friends." Crushed, David initially felt the urge to call, to send long messages explaining his feelings, hoping she'd reconsider. But he stopped himself. Instead, he decided to take a different approach. He went silent. No texts, no calls, no attempts to cross her path. David focused entirely on himself, hitting the gym, picking up a new hobby, and spending time with friends. He also revamped his appearance, investing in a new wardrobe and a haircut that made him feel confident. He didn't do this to win her back, but to reclaim his sense of self-worth. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. She reached out, casually asking how he was. Why? Because David's absence created space for her to reflect. The void he left made her question what she had taken for granted. His silence wasn't a game, it was a statement of independence. This strategy isn't about manipulation, it's about prioritizing your dignity. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Instead of begging for their attention, you become someone who doesn't need it. And in doing so, you regain not only their curiosity, but also their self-respect. By stepping back, you allow the other person to experience what life is like without you. Sometimes it's only in your absence that they begin to realize your value. And if they don't, you've still emerged stronger, more focused, and more self-assured. So, when rejection strikes, embrace the power of mystery. Pull back, focus on yourself, and let your silence speak volumes. You'll find that true strength lies not in chasing what was lost, but in becoming someone they can't ignore. Number 6, create mystery. Disappear and redefine yourself. Rejection, especially in love, often comes with the urge to chase. You want answers, closure, and maybe even a second chance. But the more you pursue, the more distant they become. Here's the paradox. The best way to regain control after rejection is not to explain, plead, or convince. It's to create mystery. Take David, for example. He had been seeing someone he deeply cared about for months. Things seemed to be going well until one evening she told him, "I think we're better off as friends." Crushed, David initially felt the urge to call, to send long messages explaining his feelings, hoping she'd reconsider. But he stopped himself. Instead, he decided to take a different approach. He went silent. No texts, no calls, no attempts to cross her path. David focused entirely on himself, hitting the gym, picking up a new hobby, and spending time with friends. He also revamped his appearance, investing in a new wardrobe and a haircut that made him feel confident. He didn't do this to win her back, but to reclaim his sense of self-worth. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. She reached out, casually asking how he was. Why? Because David's absence created space for her to reflect. The void he left made her question what she had taken for granted. His silence wasn't a game, it was a statement of independence. This strategy isn't about manipulation, it's about prioritizing your dignity. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Instead of begging for their attention, you become someone who doesn't need it. And in doing so, you regain not only their curiosity, but also their self-respect. By stepping back, you allow the other person to experience what life is like without you. Sometimes, it's only in your absence that they begin to realize your value. And if they don't, you've still emerged stronger, more focused, and more self-assured. So, when rejection strikes, embrace the power of mystery. Pull back, focus on yourself, and let your silence speak volumes. You'll find that true strength lies not in chasing what was lost, but in becoming someone they can't ignore. Number 7. Don't be afraid to reject others. Set boundaries with confidence. Rejection isn't just something you endure. It's also a tool you must learn to wield. Too often people fear saying no because they don't want to hurt feelings, create conflict, or seem unkind. But here's the truth. Saying yes to things that don't align with your values or goals is a form of self-betrayal. Imagine Alex, a young professional who had just been turned down by someone he admired. Feeling vulnerable, he found himself saying yes to anything and everything, hoping to prove his worth. Friends demanded his time, colleagues dumped extra work on him, and he even entertained a new romantic interest he wasn't genuinely excited about, all because he feared being seen as difficult or ungrateful. Over time, Alex felt drained and unfulfilled. It wasn't the rejection that broke him. It was his inability to reject what didn't serve him. Then, one day, a Stoic quote hit him like a revelation. If you don't respect your own time and energy, no one else will either. Inspired, Alex began practicing the art of rejection. When a friend asked for a favor that would derail his plans, he politely declined, saying, "I'd love to help, but I've already committed my time elsewhere." When a colleague tried to offload their responsibilities, Alex responded, "I'm happy to assist when I can, but I can't take this on right now." And when the new romantic interest began making unreasonable demands, Alex ended things, realizing that saying no was an act of self-respect. Saying no is not about pushing people away. It's about creating space for what truly matters. Rejection isn't cruel, it's clarity. It communicates your values, your limits, and your priorities. And the beauty is, those who respect you will understand and appreciate your boundaries. By learning to reject what doesn't align with your goals, you protect your energy and reinforce your self-worth. You send a powerful message to the world. I value myself enough to choose wisely. So don't fear rejection. It's not a door closing. It's the opening of another to a life that truly serves you. Number 8. Seek the truth behind rejection. Turn feedback into growth. Rejection often leaves us spinning in a whirlwind of assumptions. Was I not good enough? Did I say something wrong? Is there something about me they didn't like? But instead of guessing or overthinking, what if you simply sought the truth? The Stoics teach us that clarity, even when uncomfortable, is the path to improvement. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." Understanding why you were rejected isn't about wallowing in self-pity. It's about arming yourself with knowledge to grow stronger. Imagine you applied for a promotion at work but didn't get it. Instead of stewing in frustration or resentment, you schedule a meeting with your manager. You ask calmly and respectfully, "Could you share some feedback on what I could improve for next time?" Their response might sting. Perhaps you need stronger leadership skills or better time management. But now, you have a clear direction to work on instead of being left in the dark. The same applies to personal relationships. If someone you admire rejects your romantic advances, it's easy to feel crushed and withdrawn. But instead, you might say, "I understand your decision and I respect it. If you're comfortable sharing, is there anything I could learn from this experience?" Not only does this show maturity, but it also positions you as someone willing to grow, an attractive quality in itself. Seeking the reasons behind rejection doesn't mean begging for validation. It's about being brave enough to face constructive criticism and humble enough to learn from it. Not all feedback will be valid, but even the act of asking demonstrates resilience and emotional intelligence. By uncovering the truth, you transform rejection from a roadblock into a stepping stone. You learn what to refine, adjust, or enhance, not to win back those who rejected you, but to become a better version of yourself for the future. So the next time rejection strikes, don't fear the truth. Seek it, embrace it. Use it as fuel to sharpen your skills, elevate your character, and walk forward with even greater confidence. Because the truth, no matter how difficult, is always a step toward growth. Closing, rejection is a chapter, not the whole story. Rejection may sting, but it's not a verdict on your worth. It's a fleeting moment, a reflection of someone else's perspective, not the total of who you are. The pain it brings is real, but so too is the power it holds, the power to teach, to redirect, and to ignite growth. When you embrace rejection as a teacher rather than an enemy, it transforms. Each no becomes an opportunity to sharpen your resolve, redefine your purpose, and step closer to the life you're meant to lead. Rejection doesn't close doors, it reveals new paths, ones you may never have considered otherwise. Remember the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It's not rejection that defines you, but how you choose to respond. Will you let it break you, or will you use it to build yourself stronger than before? Now here's the challenge. Take one lesson from today and put it into action. Let rejection be the fuel that powers your next move, the push that propels you toward the version of yourself that's impossible to ignore. If you found value in these lessons, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe to stay inspired. Because every action you take today, big or small, brings you closer to the respect, growth, and success you deserve. Rejection isn't the end, it's the beginning of your next great chapter. Write it boldly.